Again, I can't say that I'm shocked by this, right? No one in this state should be shocked that Washington state Democrats are moving to make both abortion rights, quote unquote, and gender-affirming care rights a constitutionally protected right. It was introduced by Senator Vandana Slatter, the Democrat from Bellevue. Now, there are 30 Senate Democrats. How many do you think supported this particular move?
25?
Exactly. I didn't even have to cheat unless people were watching the video and then they saw me tell you the answer. 25 of the 30 Senate Democrats are backing this, which means, presumably, it's going to move through. Now, the Times, of course, frames this as sympathetic towards trans 2-year-olds who would get the right to, get their gender-affirming care and have their personal pronouns that their parents decide on their behalf be used. They say, this move comes at an uncertain time for young trans and gender-fluid people. There's no such thing as gender-fluid. That just means narcissist. Gender fluidity does not exist. But I'm sure they're all wonderful people. Following a slate of executive orders from the Trump administration to limit transgender rights, what limitation on rights did the executive orders implement? You can't limit rights via executive order. Did you know that?
Oh, that's a relief.
I know. I was very concerned because, he was writing an executive order that would stop people from speaking freely. And if he did that, we're screwed. So no executive order limited transgender rights. It limited what you want to be a right over at the Seattle Times, because this is a left-wing media organization. That part's true. I think that's accurate, right? That they're limiting at the Trump administration things you want to be considered rights, like gender-affirming care as a minor. And when we say gender-affirming care, it's very misleading, right? We're talking about gender-related surgeries, surgical interventions. We're talking about puberty blockers, which are so dangerous the UK banned them for minors, okay? But here, we're pretending that it's totally safe. Everything about it is safe. They say at the state level, Republicans in Olympia have raised concerns that Democrats are encouraging children to make gender-affirming healthcare decisions without their parents. What do you mean raising concerns? That's precisely what's going on. They make it sound like this is just an allegation that's being thrown out by Republicans. In the state of Washington, you can get health care at the age of 13 without parental consent. You can get the process started for surgical interventions to change genders without parental consent by simply running away from your home and then staying with the state, which is prevented from telling the parent where their own kid is residing. That's Washington state lawmakers at work. That's what this is about. Now, Washington state has zero threat of any trans person, regardless of their age, having their health care, quote unquote, taken away. So why do this? Well, they want to, trans-proof the state, because I think they see where the American public are. And I'm willing to bet, I haven't seen specific polling, which is odd that we haven't gotten polling like this in Washington. I'm willing to bet that the majority of Washingtonians actually don't approve of, quote unquote, gender-affirming care for minors. Certainly they don't without parental consent. I'm willing to bet that. Now, it might be closer than it should be. But if you have the majority of Washingtonians siding with going after criminal illegal immigrants and deporting them and wanting the state to participate, something tells me they're going to be on the same. One could draw a line and say, these are just reasonable positions. And when you've got a reasonable position that's being held by the voters, but you're unreasonable lawmakers, well, what do you try to do? Make it impossible for the reasonable people to win. Because these are folks who are driven by ideology. And it just so happens to be radical ideology. Now, Democrats hold all the power. They don't have a supermajority, but they still have all the power. And that means, according to the Times, even if the joint resolution did make it past some parliamentary obstacles, Democrats would need the support of their Republican colleagues. Resolutions are subject to the same cutoffs as bills. With the first policy deadlines already passed, the Senate joint resolution will not be heard this session unless an exception is made to the rules. You think they might make an exception? Yeah. The party that passed a rule that stops debate whenever the Democrats want them to, probably going to change the rules here. Now, this, of course, would ultimately go to the voters. It would. And we've had, I didn't realize it was this many. I knew we had quite a few, but 109 times we've made amendments or we've amended the state constitution. The last one was do you remember the last one?
I don't know.
2019, when voters approved a resolution to help keep the government operating during natural disasters. I don't remember that one at all.
Neither do I.
Right? I'm sure I voted for it. Or I voted on it. I don't know how I voted. I don't remember that one at all. They say other amendments approved by voters include moving up the timeline for redistricting in 2016 and allowing the state's research universities invest some of their reserve funds in private companies and stocks in 2012. I'm sure they're regretting that one if they have any Boeing stock because of the Jews, according to the radical left. Now, Republicans, of course, are not supporting this. There's not a single Republican supporting this. And again, this is mostly to, liberal proof the state should hopefully something actually change and Republicans get some power. It's pretty disgusting. It's pretty disgusting. And I do, and this is just flatly disingenuous. This is what the Times article says. There are some types of surgeries youth normally can't get until they turn 18, even with parental permission. Correct. You know what another way to say this is? There are types of surgeries youth can get without parental consent in Washington state. Now, it's interesting how they frame it. They frame it towards this never happens. And remember, we were told how many times over the course of the last 4 years that minors never have surgical intervention. How many times were we told that? It never happens. Never. Never, ever, ever. You're making this all up to, you better not ban this. What about all the kids who need the gender-affirming care? Well, which one is it? Which one is it? We had that Bellevue doctor who was bragging about having surgical interventions with minors. So which is it? I'd love to know.
Classic, it's not happening, and it's good that it is.
Yeah, so it's clear that it's happening. Seattle children, what did they do a month ago? They put a pause temporarily on surgical interventions of minors. Now, it wasn't without parental consent in that case, but y'all told us it wasn't happening. Because y'all are liars.
They do the same thing with late-term abortions. They're like,
never, ever happens.
No one's doing that.
And no one has ever done that ever. Okay, then why are you opposed to banning it? No one ever does it. How dare you? Sometimes you have to do it. Okay, fine. For purposes of the mother's life. Okay. You know how we fix that? No elective abortions in the third trimester. You say that those don't happen ever. Women never do that. And then they go, first they say women never do it. Then they say women don't take this lightly. Just a few years after the Shout Your Abortion movement. And then it goes to, okay, fine, it happens, but you better not ban it. It's just unbelievable.